The Pont Despondé Centre at the University of New Brunswick is the youngest of the Despondé centres, and so being the younger sibling, we get the benefit of learning from the older ones. So as you mentioned, we have a bit of a hybrid of the various centres that have come before us, and a unique landscape in Canada that kind of colors what we're doing. So the things that we have in common, and when you think of Canada and India, on the surface, you may think that we're very different. And actually, I had a young woman, one of the students here a couple of years ago, ask me, ma'am, why is there a Despondé Centre in Canada when it's such a wealthy country? And that kind of took me aback, because it's true. Here, the sandbox is set up to help create an ecosystem to solve very complicated social problems on a mass scale. And so I kind of had to translate the fact that we too have significant social problems. But it also allowed me to question, why is that? Why is it that if we have wealth and quality of life, that we too have similar social problems? And I think what's happened with Canadians is that we have become a little bit complacent. So once you achieve a certain amount of quality of life, you get to the point where it's comfortable and innovation takes a back seat. But unfortunately, do that for long enough and the system will start to crumble under the status quo. And so what we've seen in New Brunswick in particular, because we're not Toronto, we're not the financial hub, and we're not Alberta where there's oil, so we don't have access to some of the traditional economic drivers. We've seen a lot of increasing poverty, and we've got healthcare challenges, we have environmental issues, we have large unemployment. And we're kind of looked on in Canada as the have-not province. And so Desh, being an alum of the University of New Brunswick, also has a personal connection to the region, and generously contributed the support to bring the Pont Despondé Centre to life, with the mission, similarly to the Hubli Sandbox and the one in the Merrimack Valley, around the idea of leveraging entrepreneurship as an economic stimulator, so that we can create in Little New Brunswick, not Toronto, an ecosystem that allows us to thrive and make sure that everybody can achieve their potential. We're taking some of the magic from these two centers, and the really interesting thing about Hubli is that they're playing a leadership role. So really, we are students of what's happening here in Hubli. When we started the center, the concept of social entrepreneurship, creating economic value through social mission-driven companies, was something we didn't talk about. We had two models. We had the for-profit, maximize your wealth model, and we had the charitable nonprofit, funneled on compassion, solving our social problems. And neither was really creating the economic landscape that would allow significant quality of life. So this concept of social entrepreneurship is very new to our region, and trying to convince thought leaders in all of our sectors is a challenging thing. The other challenge we have is we have an out-migration of youth. So as young people grow up and are educated in our region, they want to go and go to the big cities or the big center where there's possibility and entrepreneurship and economic development and jobs. And so we're kind of making a big bet right now that social entrepreneurship is something that can bring our youth back, because of a couple of reasons. There's been some research on this young generation, and I'm wondering if in India it's the same thing. You talk about half your population being under 25. And in Canada, our youth know two things and want two things. One is they want to be creators of their own futures, or they know they're going to have to be. The jobs aren't there for them, so they're going to have to be job creators. And two, they are also desiring impact and meaning in their careers. Very different from recent generations. And so we think that's a magic combination for the growth of social innovators that can make deep change, is this combination of those two things. And if we in New Brunswick can create an environment that allows them to be socially innovative and gives them the tools that they need, then not only are we going to get that exciting innovation, but we're going to start to attract the youth back to the region. So we are betting on building that ecosystem, and we're doing it in a few ways. We're building pools of social capital. So we're creating dollars that are available to young people very early on at the idea stage to test ideas and to start to validate and put things in the market. We're creating a very robust mentorship ecosystem to support them. And we're trying to influence our government partners and the private sector to open up data and make it available to the innovators and create a society, a digital society. Our young people grew up with the internet. They know nothing else. They don't know a time when we had encyclopedias to look up information. They only know that they can connect to the world right away, and they want that conduit to be able to innovate, and they want it fast and easy, and they want to be connected. So that's what we're trying to do with our sandbox, is to create this ecosystem for social innovation where the older, experienced entrepreneurs and leaders provide the tools, the knowledge transfer, and the support, but they get out of the way, and they let this millennial generation that we're calling them move forward with a very deep understanding of doing good and doing well at the same time. So our province, which is like a state, has 750,000 people in it. So it's like a small city. The whole province, yes. So we have 3 what we call large cities in our province, each of about 100,000 people. But most of it's very rural, and so it has a very similar sort of landscape to some of the challenges with rural India, is how do you connect rural people with the centers where all of this activity is happening, and create meaningful opportunities to create sustainable rural communities. We don't want migration just into the cities. We want sustainable rural communities. And what Hubli has proven, because Hubli is not a Mumbai or a Bangalore or a Delhi, is that you don't have to be one of the big cities to do that. You really just need some of those key ingredients that everybody has talked about, and a collective collaboration among sectors and thought leaders to support and rally around these early stage innovators. And it can happen anywhere, in any kind of setting. And I think that's some of the reason people are coming to Hubli, and it's why we believe people are going to come to New Brunswick, because it's like coming home, and you have a place inside a family where you're connected, you have relationships, you have somebody who cares about you and who wants to invest in you and who's going to validate you and your passion and get behind you and make sure that it happens. And in big cities, you can become very anonymous very quickly, and it's very difficult to have that kind of connection. And so I'm convinced that a small ecosystem can provide a really unique experience for an entrepreneur. And I think that's why a lot come back to Hubli, or come to Hubli for the first time, because you're immediately connected to all of this sort of support network. And so we believe that we're going to be able to provide that too, and that the youth and maybe alum that have gone and traveled elsewhere are going to come back, because it's like coming home, and they're going to feel supported in that.